Hello Summit. This is a tutorial on how I was able to make this shift dress. So the first thing I did was to fold my fabric in two. I folded this fabric by dividing my hip measurements by 4 and adding 2 inches for seam allowance. That was how I was able to get my fold. So my hip measurement is 44, divided by 2 is 11, plus 2 inches will be 13 inches. So what I have there is 13 inches. I'm going to cut this out. So the first thing I did was to measure my full length before cutting. So full length I'm working with is 43. I'm going to measure exactly 43 because this is actually a lining. So after that, I would mark where I will take my measurements. Marked my bust point, my half length, and my hip line. I used 25 inches for my hip line in this dress. So I'll mark the lines properly. And the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my chest measurement. I came up from my bust point by 2 inches to get my chest measurement. After that, I would mark half of my shoulder measurement plus half inches. My shoulder measurement is 8.5 plus half inches, that is 9. I will mark same measurement on my chest line and draw a straight line. The next thing I did was to get my shoulder slope by coming down by 1 inch from my shoulder line, mark the width of my neckline and then connect to that 1 inch slope. Next thing I did was to measure what I have from that shoulder slope to my chest line, divide by 2, and then mark and come out by half inch. After that, I'm going to mark quarter of my bust measurement on my chest line and I'll connect all points at the same middle. So I'll be using 1.5 inches for seam allowance on my bust point. That is half inch for ease and then 1 inch for shaping allowance. On my waist measurement, I'm going to put quarter of my waist measurement and 2 inches because I don't want my waist line to be tight at all. So I'll be using 2 inches for my waist ease. That's 1 inch for ease, 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I will be using the same 2 inches on my hip line. Now mind you, remember we folded this material exactly on our hip divided by 2 plus 2 inches. So I'll just mark that and that's the same measurements down. I'll cut this out. Next thing I did was to take my neck measurement. So I'll be using 4 inches for this dress and 3.5 inches for the width. That is 4 inches for the length and 3.5 inches for the width. So I'll be cutting this out. Mind you, this is for the front, please. So after cutting this out, I'll be using it to cut for my back. So I'll keep that aside and fold my fabric for the back. So after folding, I'll place my front on the back just to help me determine the width of fabric I'll be needing for my back piece. After arranging my fabric, I would be measuring out my zipper allowance. For this dress, I'll be using 1 inch for my zipper allowance. I'll mark this 1 inch from top to the length and I'll connect this. After connecting it, I would move my front piece to align exactly where the 1 inch is. Pin this, and after pinning, I'll trace out by cutting what's like following the front. So for my back neckline, I'll be coming down by 1.5 inches. This is for the length. So same 3.5 inch width, but 1.5 for the depth. So what I like to do for my shift dress is I like to come up from my half length, as you can see me do, by 2 inches, then come in by half inches. This is to also help eliminate like bulginess at the back of my shift dresses. So after doing that, I'll just cut this out. After cutting this out, I'll be using this to cut my main fabric, because this is actually my lining. So on cutting for my main fabric, I would increase the base by 2 inches. So I have cuts for my main fabric, as you can see, both the back and the front. And if you notice at the hem, I increased it by 2 inches. Yeah, exactly 2 inches. So by the time I join at my lining, it would be my exact length that I needed for this. So to cut my sleeve, I will be measuring what I have around my armhole. That's what I'm going to use to determine the arm curve of my sleeve. So I marked my starting point here, and I came down by 26 for my sleeve length and added 1 inch for hemming and joining allowance. So after marking that, I'll be marking my bicep measurements, which is 5.75. This is when I'll be imputing my bicep measurements. So after marking that, I'll be measuring my bicep measurement, which is 7.5. That's half of my round arm. That's the largest part of your arm is your bicep. So after doing that, I would slant my tape from that point that you see by 6 inches. Then from the top point, from the center, I marked 1.5 inches, and we'll be connecting these 3 points together. So if I measure this curve I have here, it should give me what I have for my armhole. So I added 1.5 inches for ease and stitching allowance. So what I have there is more than enough. So I'm cross-checking again to be sure that I have the exact thing, and I do. So after doing this, I will go to the hem. This is not a pencil sleeve, mind you. It's just a free straight sleeve. It's not a cone, but it's in between. So at the base, I'm going to measure what I have at the top there on the base too, because I just want it to be free and not too big and not tight at all. So after doing that, I'll be connecting my lines and I'll be cutting this out. For my pockets, I measured a fabric of 16 by 10, meaning on fold it will be 8 inches. This is what I'll be using for my pockets. I'll cut this and I'll keep it outside. So the next thing I'm going to do is to separate my pieces. For my front, I'm going to place right side of my lining piece and right side of my fabric piece together. I'll pin the neck and stitch with 1/2 inch. I'll do this to the base of my fabric too, for both my front pieces and 2 pieces of my back my back fabric. So I've stitched the neckline of my lining and main fabric together. I would give it a notch, turn this inside out. As you can see, I did the same stitching for the down part. I'm not going to stitch the sides because I want to serge it after I am done. This is to save me time. So I will be ironing the neckline of this front and the down part. I'll give it a thorough ironing so everywhere will be okay, especially the down part. So after ironing, I would fold this in two. As you can see, the lining piece is inside at that down part. This is because of that 2 inches that we cut off for the lining. So I'll give this a thorough iron. After that, I'm going to set this aside and trim off any excess that I have from the lining piece. So after doing that, I like to mark where I want my pockets to be before joining. So for this one, I'll be marking my half length first. After marking my half length, I came down from my half length by 1.5 inches, then measured the width of the pocket I want, which is 7 or 7.5. I will notch both points and I would keep this aside. Mind you, I'll be doing the same thing for the back too. So this is to make it easier for me when I'm stitching everything. So I'll iron the back, the 2 pieces of the back, and I would mark my zipper allowance of 1 inch, connect this, and I would stitch it. Before stitching, I will measure where I want my zipper to stop, so that way I will know where to back stitch and where to stop. So after doing that, after stitching my zipper's allowance, I'm going to iron that point open. This way we may have a line and to make my work neat. Iron both the back and the front thoroughly. So after I finish doing this, I will be placing my front on top and joining at the shoulders first. So to do this invisible joining, you would take one part of the fabric that is under. In this case, it is the back. I took the main fabric, I left out the lining part, and then I placed my front, both fabric and lining, on that part, and then turned the lining of the back to be on top of the front pieces. As you can see me do, just follow what I am doing. Like I said, one piece of the back, which is the main fabric, placed 2 pieces of the front shoulder on top of that one piece of the back, and then turned the lining to come on top of the front fabric, and I'll stitch that. You can see how neat the inside is. You don't want to wear your clothes and the rough edges is showing through your neckline. So the next thing I did is to notch the center of my sleeve and then pin it to the center of my shoulder measurement and join. I'll do this for both sides. I'm done joining the sleeve to my armhole. Next thing I'll be doing is to mark my stitching allowance, which is 1. So I'm going to mark from the top, and then if you see that line I did there, that's the first notch we made for the pockets, as you can see. So I'm going to stop my sewing. So I'm going to start sewing from the sleeve. I'll take it down and I'll stop at that notch we made for the pocket. I'll measure my pocket allowance, which is 7.5, and then I would mark my 1 inch from there downwards, thereby giving me an opening for my pockets. I'll do this for both sides and I'll stitch and show us what it looks like. So I'm done stitching, and this is the opening for my pockets. Now to fix my pockets, remember your pocket is in 2 pieces. So I'm going to take 1 piece and then right side facing right side, as you can see me do, I would pin. I'll pin complete to the other side. That's from one notched area to the other notched area. After doing this, I'm going to flip it open, as you can see, and then take the other side of the pockets, and then right side facing right side, I would pin it on the other side of the opening. This is to give you an invisible pocket. Nobody will actually know there's a pocket in that clothes except you tell them. So I'll be using 1/2 inch to stitch this and then close my pocket. I've closed my pocket, as you can see. I will turn this inside out and give it a very thorough press. So I'm done ironing. As you can see, my pocket is invisible and it's inside. You literally not know that there's a pocket in this dress. So after ironing, giving it all iron. I'm going to be fixing my zip. So what I'm going to do is to open the zipper area to that point where I did my first back stitch. Remember the point where we marked that we wanted the zipper to stop? That's where I'm going to open this to. So after doing that, I would take this dress to my machine and fix my zip. So I'm done fixing my zipper. This is the shift dress. Please subscribe and like and help share this.